Now, I find myself questioning my sanity quite often, but I can't be the only person that was absolutely shocked to find out that John Carpenter and Robert Englund didn't have stars on the Walk of Fame. Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Nick here from the Lost River Drive-In, and today I wanted to do a quick tribute, congratulations, whatever you want to call it, video about the news we got today regarding John Carpenter and Robert Englund. And I also wanted to dissect this announcement a little bit and just how crazy it is. Now, it was announced today that John Carpenter and Robert Englund, among many others, will finally be getting stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, you are probably like me, and you sat and thought to yourself, how did they not have them already? We have people like Zac Efron that have been on there for years. And no offense to Zac Efron, because I like a lot of his movies, but come on. Is he more iconic than Freddy freaking Krueger? No, he's not. So on the one hand, yeah, it's really cool that they're getting this recognition. Now, I don't know if you guys have been to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I have only driven past parts of it, but I have friends that have been to it and walked it. They've told me it is blocks upon blocks upon blocks. So if there are thousands upon thousands of names that are already there, how do you not have John Carpenter, who I would argue is the greatest horror director of all time, and Robert Englund, who played probably the most iconic horror villain of all time? Now, let's dissect that a little bit. All right, so as regarding Robert Englund, look, as I said, I use Zac Efron as reference here. If you put Zac Efron side by side with Freddy Krueger, do you think more people would recognize Zac Efron or Freddy Krueger? It's absolutely Freddy Krueger, without a doubt. And it would be specifically Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger. Now, you could make the argument, oh, well, Michael Myers, he's iconic and a bunch of actors wore the mask. That's the difference. Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. So even if you don't know that the guy portraying Freddy Krueger is Robert Englund, you know Freddy Krueger. And that Freddy Krueger is Robert Englund. He is an icon. Freddy Krueger ruled the 80s. He was on top of the world. He was on MTV. I mean, he broke barriers that we hadn't seen broken in the horror genre. Like, the fact that he's not there, not to mention that Robert Englund has done so many other incredible works throughout his life, and even as recently as doing Stranger Things Season 4 as Victor Creel, and he was great in that. I do find it really hard to believe that he wasn't there already. Now let's take a look at John Carpenter. Now, you heard me say that I would argue that he is the greatest horror filmmaker of all time. A lot of people would put Kubrick in there, they would put Hitchcock in that argument, some people would even put Wes Craven. I personally don't find it to even be a contest. Look, Carpenter's worst movies would be solid movies for a lot of other directors. We have higher standards for this guy because he is so damn good. I would say, personally, that Ghost of Mars is his weakest film. But is Ghost of Mars as bad as, I don't know, Jeepers Creepers Reborn? No, it's not even a contest. So this guy's absolute duds are not as bad as most people's duds. Not saying they're good. Also, have you seen a director, specifically in the horror genre, though I should say predominantly in the horror genre, because it's not all Carpenter has done, but have you seen a director have a 4-year stretch like John Carpenter did from 1978 to 1982? He had Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, and The Thing in a 4-year span. Now, even if you're not a fan of, probably the least popular of those would be The Fog or Escape from New York, but even if you're not a fan of one of those two, that is 4 classics, at the very least cult classics. Amongst our fan base, amongst this community, all 4 of those movies are incredibly popular. But let's take it even bigger than that. Let's look at a larger view of this. Halloween is revered as one of the greatest horror films of all time, as is The Thing. How is the guy that directed 2 of arguably the top 10 to 15 greatest horror films of all time not already recognized on the Walk of Fame? Isn't that insane? If you polled a bunch of critics together and you asked them to do a list of their top 20 horror films of all time, I would be willing to bet 75% of them are going to put The Thing and Halloween in that list. That's insane. John Carpenter didn't have a star on the Walk of Fame already. Let's not forget the incredible composer that he is. Known for his scores with movies that he didn't even direct as well. Halloween 3, one that comes to mind already. But then you just go down the line of the ones that he's known for. Halloween, Christine, The Fog, The Thing. He did incredible work for years and years and years, and is still doing it today. And his Lost Themes albums are incredible. You've got a lot of stuff that he had throughout his career that he's recycling and redoing in new ways. You've also got new original tracks, and you've got the added component of Cody and Daniel Davies in there with him a lot of the time, and it just makes for this really rich listening experience. John Carpenter is a freaking legend. Robert Englund is a freaking legend. Now, is the Hollywood Walk of Fame that big of a deal? To us, absolutely. I mean, you're immortalized forever. Now, sure, you're on the ground, it's, stone, but that's immortalized. You're there forever, or until Los Angeles breaks off and goes and hangs out with Hawaii. But to John Carpenter and Robert Englund, is it the highest honor they could achieve? Probably not. But it doesn't really matter. It is an honor. It is newsworthy. And that's really cool. I have always wanted to get out of the car the 2 times I've been in Los Angeles and go on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I'm kind of glad now that I haven't yet, because the next time I'm there, I will be able to look at John Carpenter's star and look at Robert Englund's star. And that's kind of a big deal to me. John Carpenter has always meant a ton to me. He's one of the only filmmakers that I can genuinely sit here and tell you guys, when he sadly passes away, that's going to be really, really hard for me. Because my love for horror and for film in general is a lot, it's due to this guy. Like, Halloween opened my eyes to so many things in my life, and I just am forever indebted to this man. A lot of these scores that I listen to all the time, that I play on my, tabletop record player in my kitchen while I'm doing the dishes, it's become a part of me. This guy means so much to me, and I just think it's really cool that he is getting this recognition, and I also find it kind of disrespectful that it took this long. At the end of the day, this is a really, really cool announcement for both of these gentlemen and everybody else involved. But to be frank with you, John and Robert, they didn't need this for validation. They didn't need this to be seen as icons. No, these men are icons. These men are legends. Robert Englund terrified people for decades. He will continue to terrify generations to come. He created one of the greatest horror villains, if not the greatest horror villain, ever put to screen. Yeah, sure, you can write that dialogue and you can do the makeup for him, but his performance is what makes Freddy Krueger, Freddy Krueger. He can take a subpar script and elevate that and make it memorable. John Carpenter is one of the realest directors ever. This is a guy that has never sugarcoated anything. He doesn't lie. He doesn't really care what people think about him. John has been upfront for decades. I did this for a paycheck, or I didn't want to do this at all, or I just flat out said no, or I wrote this while I was drunk, whatever it might be. The guy is authentically himself. And that is really, really important and rare in Hollywood, especially nowadays. People put on masks and pretend to be people they're not. John has never been that way. This is a guy that is still going strong into his late 70s, even though he used to smoke like a freight train for decades. And I hope he goes on for another 20, 30 years, because I don't want to live in a world where the horror master himself, John Carpenter, isn't around anymore. So I guess this video was to congratulate them, and it was also to remind you guys that Robert Englund is the most iconic horror villain put to screen, and John Carpenter is the greatest horror filmmaker of all time. Congratulations to both of these men, and I wish for your health, success, and happiness for many decades to come. No other sign-off necessary here, guys. Thank you so much for stopping in. Leave a like, comment down below. This is Nick, and I'm pulling out.